Hey, Jasen Rice here with the LotParty show. As you know, we like to take your virtual lot, stir things up, help you manage your inventory better with your processes and everything. But on this show, I'm actually doing something different. Instead of being in my office, in my shop there, we're doing a live interview here at the AutoRemarketing Used Car Week. I do a lot of focus on used cars, and this is one of those conferences that I think makes a big impact on dealers, both independent and franchise dealer. I got Joe Overby here. He is the senior editor of AutoRemarketing. So check out AutoRemarketing if you don't get the magazine already. But go to usedcarweek.biz. They got a website that breaks down this whole conference. My regret is that we're doing it while the conference is going on instead of telling you about it beforehand. But it's going on all week. So especially if you're in the we're in Vegas, Red Rock Resort. So if you're in the area, you got plenty of time to make it here. And they actually have, well, Joe, give us a background. You got the conference is chunked up into 3 sections. We're in phase 1, 2 days, CPO. Give me the agenda.
Sure. And Jason, thanks for having me here. So right now we've got the CPO forum going on. Day 1 and day 2 tomorrow is going to be the lot of general sessions with CPO, and we also start our subprime forum. And then the middle half of the week is the RE3 conference and the National Remarketing Conference going on. And then we actually, this year for the first time, have brought the National Auto Auction Association's convention together with our National Remarketing Conference. Okay. So that's going to be going on starting tomorrow through Thursday. So, you know, grand total of 5 different conferences all staggered throughout the week.
Yeah, now I've been to the conference last year, focused on the CPO area, because that's what I do with a lot of the dealerships that we deal with is used car operations. You know, I don't deal a whole lot with subprime or repossessions and auction stuff, but as a dealer, you know, what's the benefit of coming to that second and third phase is 1, and then 2, I'm mad because I'm leaving tomorrow night, and I understand Terry Bradshaw will be there Wednesday, so I'll miss him. But you know, what's the benefits? What's kind of the programs going on in those other areas?
Sure. So the RE3 I think is important for dealers who maybe are, you know, have opportunities where, you know, maybe they want to get into that space. Maybe they want to get into a buy here, pay here operation, or doing, you know, offering some kind of subprime financing, you know, and the RE3 market kind of is very closely tied to those markets. And I think, you know, even if they're not involved with that right now, you know, just learning about it and getting exposed to, you know, the various players in the market, and, you know, learning some best practices on financial compliance, that's going to be a huge topic at both RE3 and our subprime forum, and our National Remarketing Conference. So I think for dealers, you know, the benefit, you know, aside from getting to see Terry Bradshaw and Jim Lovell, who's the Apollo 13 commander.
Oh, wow.
He's going to be here this week as well. So in addition to seeing all that and all the fun opportunities, you know, a lot of great workshops, but also you know, some of the most valuable content is just the networking and meeting people that you might not ordinarily cross paths with in your daily dealership life that maybe can teach you a new segment of the market, or, you know, just learning things from a different viewpoint. You know, talking with dealers or, you know, auctions or anybody from across the country always learn something new.
Yeah, and a lot of dealers are buying the cars from the auction, especially independents. I've got some independents that run their inventory 80% purchase cars, and so, you know, they're dealing a lot with auctions. So maybe, you know, this conference can help them more of the ins and outs, better ways to do it, better way to transport them and things like that, because that's key as dealers, especially independents, rely on these auctions. What works, what doesn't work, what auctions have certain, you know, easier to buy online aspects and things like that. I guess those are deeper dives of what these auction guys provide at the conference too.
Yeah, absolutely. So there'll be one of the sessions in particular later this week during the NRC is actually on some of the automotive disruption. So we've got, you know, Carvana and Vroom and some of the other players like that on a panel. We've got some folks here to talk about just, you know, I'm actually moderating a session with some of the economists from ADESA, Manheim, NAAA, and Moody's Analytics, and they're going to talk a lot about both the retail and the wholesale side of the used car market, and knowing that kind of data is important for dealers.
Yeah.
It's important for auctions. It's important for everybody involved in the industry.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of the NRC portion of it and the NAAA portion of it. There's going to be a lot of data presentations that it's going to be useful for auctions, but valuable for dealers and other folks as well.
Well, I think a couple key areas about this conference. One, there's a lot of conferences out there. NADA is the big one, but it covers everything. Digital dealers out there, but it's a lot of online and internet processes, website stuff. Dealer summit and things like that. But this one's the biggest one. Wraps around used cars, and I think that's key for dealerships right now. New cars has kind of hit its peak. That might be running down a little bit. Plus, all these lease returns coming into the market. You've got to be lean and clean in your used car inventory to be right. And I think CPO is one way for dealers to stand out. But I remember learning a few things last year. One of them we talked about before were consumers. The data that like Cox provides is saying when they surveyed the consumer and listed the features of what CPO means and what the benefits are, I think the number was like they're willing to pay $2,000 more for it. And I remember the CPO dealer of the year last year, he was a Chrysler dealer. We kind of looked at each other like $2,000. Our dealers don't see that because they have a hard time portraying that. Plus, online, it's hard to show customers that value. But again, there's some best practices here that help dealerships. It's really training of the employees.
Yeah.
And you interview a lot of a lot of these guys who come in and do workshop. I know we get interview. What's some of those other trends that you see going on, especially CPO or any of the other ones going on?
Well, I think
other than the disruptors.
You mentioned a great one, and that's leasing. And I think from a perspective of vehicles coming off lease, that impacts everybody.
Yeah.
From the lenders, from the automakers, from the dealers, the auctions. That's going to be a hot topic both at the CPO forum, RE3 at the Subprime Forum, and the National Remarketing Conference in NAAA. So it's something that almost every aspect of the used car business touches, and that's going to be something that's going to be hot topic, and I think is going to be addressed in several different conferences. Also, I think the consumer journey, particularly in the CPO session, the consumer journey, what are the consumer perceptions of CPO? Just sort of an update on all of that. I think there's going to be some surprising findings tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, from the Cox Automotive presentation. I think folks are gonna be surprised. I can't give it away yet, but I think there's gonna be some surprises there. And this afternoon, shortly, we're gonna have our keynote presentation from Jonathan Banks of NADA Used Car Guide and Tyson Jominy from JD Power. And they're going to go, into a lot of good data, and their keynote on the first day is always a great way to open the CPO forum.
Yeah, you brought up the fact about lenders. I didn't even think about the fact of, I've been waiting for wholesale values to drop, and they have a little bit, watching some of your headlines and stuff, but not at the levels. I think a lot of it that's holding it up is all these stop sales and recalls. Yeah. As those get fixed, those are coming in, then lease returns are coming in. But somebody owns those leases, right? Exactly. The manufacturer owns them. So they might no sell a lot of these holding out, because if not, they're going to take big hits, and they might sit on them. So I'm curious what the auctions have to say about that. What percentage maybe no sales are going on and not getting published out there as far as wholesale values and things like that. So yeah, these lenders and these borrowers that own these lease returns have a big, obviously, stake in the game of what these cars are going to go through the lane. So the wholesale values could stay up if they decide to hold back, or are they going to push them out and just lose a bunch of money?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's that juggling game.
And I think that's going to be addressed by the auctions and the consigners later this week. And you mentioned the recalls, and that's going to be a huge topic, as is, I think, just the you talk about the regulatory environment, first thing people think of is the lending and the CFPB, but there are so many different ways that dealers and auctions and lenders are regulated, and everything from the FTC to NHTSA with all of the recalls, and that sort of ties together. So I think a lot of there'll be a lot of talk about government relations and that sort of thing this week as well.
And so I talk a lot, either in my tips or in the show, a lot about used car operations, how to turn it, what photos and descriptions and price points and things like that. But that to me is a marketing deeper dive. This is a totally other deeper dive into what's really going on in the used car industry. And like I said, there's areas like the lender part that I didn't think about that could be driving this wholesale buy. I'm waiting for them to drop. I want my dealers to be clean so we can be buying it's low, but it also could be holding out. And like I said, these these recalls are hurting that and everything. All right, so as a recap, like I said, I want to repost this next year so people have some head game into showing up to this.
Absolutely.
But what other information would you like to share before we wrap up here, as far as, again, some of the key benefits that dealers can get, both from your magazine and both from this event?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing is just, what I touched on earlier about, how holistic the used car market is, and just the every piece of the used car market sort of is interwoven, and one doesn't happen without the other. And I think it's a great, a venue like this and a conference like this is a great way for all those different pieces of the business to connect. And I think the old saying about 90% is showing up. Coming here, meeting people. If you don't come here, you may miss out on people. It's one thing, the magazine's great. It's great to read all the trends, and we very much appreciate it. Yeah. But this is really where you see the magazine come to life.
Yeah, and the newsletter's great. I use it all the time to push out Facebook these headlines, because that's how I stay on top of these wholesale trends, what's going on in the market. So I appreciate the content you guys put out there. I appreciate your time.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
We're gonna wrap up the show. Auto Dealer Live's next, and then next week's show I might find something tomorrow to record. Again, I think there's some good maybe vendors here to maybe just get an interview. Again, not for pitches, just what do they see, what's going on in the market, what do they see that they can do to help dealers. So hope you enjoyed this show. See you next week. Thanks.